is for you. Because in the time of in between is the time we need to be connected with God. And I want you to understand that every Christian brothers and sister on the face of this earth, on the universe, have the time of in between. Somebody not understand me. The Bible said, let go to the children of Israel. When God told Moses, this is a word for somebody. When God told Moses to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. Somebody understand it? No, listen to me. I'm trying to tell you that every believer, that every individual on the face of this earth have the time of in between. But the time of in between comes to prepare us. So when the time of in between comes, is not the time we need to sit back. The time of in between is not the time we need to fold our hands and put it between our legs. There is a word for somebody. The time of in between is the time that we are going through situation. It's the time that we are going through tribulation. It's the time that our life have been tormented. So the Bible says, in the time of your in-between, what are you doing in the time of your in-between? Because I want you to understand that even if you serving God according to His will and plans for your life, but still there is a time that will come that you will face the time of in-between. Yes, because listen to me, the time of in between come for you to leave your comfort zone. The time of in between come for you to understand that God is about to prevail in that situation. Because a situation is your time of in between. The time where when you turn left, when you turn right, there is no way. But then what can you do in the time of your in between? Listen to me. The Bible says even Jesus Christ had his time of in between. But the Bible says in the time of Jesus Christ in between, Jesus did something. And that's the secret I want to prevail unto us today. Because there is a time of every individual in between. Now, let go. The Bible says when God told Moses to lead the children of Israel out of out of Egypt, the Bible says Jesus told Moses, you need to lead the children of Israel now. So Israel, God chose some people. So now Israel were in Egypt, and the Egyptians were maltreating the Israelites. So God, but at the same time, they kept communicating with God. They kept looking up to God until God spoke to Moses and told Moses, you need to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. But listen to me, let's see what happened. But the Bible says while leaving out of Egypt, there was another situation, which was the wilderness. Now so now in the wilderness can be considered as the Israelite. Oh, my Santaribu. The wilderness can be considered as the Israelite in between. Because do you know why it being considered as the in-between? It's because in the wilderness they could not find water. In the wilderness they could not find food. In the wilderness they were suffering. But the Bible says some begin to curse God, some begin to turn their back on God. So this is the secret I'm about to relate unto you now. That in the time of your wilderness, it's not the time you need to put blame. In the time of your in-between, it's not the time you need to turn against God. In the time of your in-between, the Bible says it's the time you need to be patient. Rebecca Santaraba. Because the time of your in-between is the time you need to be patient. In the time of your in-between is the time you need to be persistent. In the time of your in-between is the time that you need to do something positive. intensity that will draw God attention, and God make you to be victorious in the time of your in-between. The Bible says the wilderness was the Israelite times of their in-between. The period of their in-between was the wilderness. And I take you down to, let's look at David and Goliath. So the Bible said Goliath was David in between. So the Bible said David in the middle of his brother and David in the middle of Goliath. So David in the middle, so his brothers and Goliath was David in between. Listen to me. Every individual, no matter who you are, but as long as you classify yourself as children and child of God, listen to me. Don't think that things going to be easy. No, things will not be easy, because there will be a time of your period of in between. Because God wants to see, God wants to see how truly you care and you love me. So simple example, when Jesus was taking the children of Israel into the promised land, the wilderness was their in-between. But listen to me, the Bible said it was not all who see the promised land. Do you know why? Because in the wilderness, it was their in-between, where they could not have no food, they could not get nothing. And they begin to think to Moses, what kind of God that will bring us here and want to leave us alone and allow us to suffer until we die in this place? Listen to me, in the time of your in-between, it's not the time you need to place blame. It's not the time you need to complain. It's not the time you need to quarrel. In the time of your in-between, it's the time you need to be patient, persistent, and stand fast. So every individual on the face of the earth have their time of in-between. No matter how sincere you've been, trusting God, believing God, living according to God's plans and purpose for your life, you still have your period of in-between. But the question is, in the time of your period of in-between, what are you doing? Is it in the time of your in-between, are you trying to break somebody down? Is it in the time of your in-between, are you trying to put blame on somebody? Is it in the time of your period of in-between, are you trying to break your son down? Somebody now, is it in the time of your in-between, are you trying to break your sister down? Hey, this go to husband. Is it in the time of your in-between, husband and wife? Is it the time you're about to go to the nightclubs? Is it in the time of your in-between? Is it the time you're about to be fornicating? Is it in the time of your in-between? Is it the time you're about to be committing adultery? Listen to me now, husband and wife, in the time of your in-between, because every marriage, every relationship has a time of in-between, and in the period of in-between, it's the time you gotta say, husband, wife, we need to seek the face of God. We need to seek the face of God, because this is our time of in-between. People are fighting us. People are saying things about us. People are gossiping on us. But listen, honey, this is the time of our in-between. Let us not fail. Let us not listen to them. I want us to look up to God, because the Bible says that we should look up to God, because our help cometh from the Lord. Honey, let go in our closet and begin to seek the face of God. Listen to me. In the time of your in-between, every marriage has the time of in-between. Every individual has the time of in-between. Every relationship has the time of in-between. But I want you to understand that in the time of your in-between, it's not the time you need to put blames. In the time of your in-between, it's not the time you need to complain. Listen, husband, in the time of your in-between, it's not the time to be in the nightclub. Hey, in the time of your in-between, it's not the time you need to be fornicating. In the time of your in between, it's not the time you need to be committing adultery. In the time of in between, it's not the time you need to be lying. In the time of your in between, it's not the time you need to be stealing. In the time of your in between, it's the time you need to stand fast. In the time of your in between, it's the time you need to be patient. In the time of